Gwen and Chris Bossley from Whispering Pines, Ohau in the Horowhenua district. If you're interested in trees and the environment, give farm forestry a go. The returns are unpredictable, but looking back now and seeing how the trees have grown and the sand has stabilised, we feel it's been a great family achievement.
Bought the property in 1981, which is 30 years ago now. Initially 95 acres, that's 30-something hectares. It was on sand country. We're about a kilometre from the sea, but the sand was being blown in by the sea and we had erosion problems, so we thought that trees were a good way to control that. It's a mixture of sand hills and peat flats in between, so we planted trees on the hills and used the flats for grazing. Okay, we initially planted about 25,000 pines with a few macrocarpus, a few gums and a few acacia melanoxen, Tasmanian blackwoods, but the gums were by far the best. The main problem, we probably overcommitted ourselves, was in those days we didn't have chemical releasing, so because of the rapid growth of grass and lupins, we had to release all the trees with grubbers, and that was hard work. Then we pruned all the trees up to 6 metres, mostly with the family, but with occasional professional help. And then last year we logged the first 8 hectares, which you can see area here. They were 29-year-old pines, and in the distance you can see the 27-year-olds, which we're going to log, hopefully, in the next couple of years. When we first started, I suppose we were a little bit green before green was actually a politically acceptable thing. It was a nice place to come with the children and their friends, rather than having a batch a long way away. We're only an hour from where we live, so we get back home and back quite easily. And after a weekend, we used to go home very exhausted, but quite happy with some achievement, because you could see you'd pruned a few hundred trees over the weekend.
When we first bought the property, it really was just bare sand, and motorbikes used to come in from the beach and they used to do their trailing
Hooning.
all over the property, and there was just no obstruction. It was just sand for as far as you could see.
The sand was being blown with nothing between us and Australia, so the sand was advancing about 10 metres a year, and our boundary fence was well under the sand, and after we planted the pine trees, that stabilised the sand, and there's been no movement since, so it has been very useful. And hopefully, even when the trees are felled, there'll now be enough dry matter lying on it to stabilise the sand hills. Logging, it's an exciting thing after 29 years growing trees. You only get one go at it in your lifetime, really.
But it's a bit sad too.
Yeah, it's a bit sad to look at it.
Beautiful trees going down in 1 or 2 cuts.
We took off just over 600 tonnes a hectare, which was quite good for sand country. About a third of the wood was milled locally for New Zealand timber. About 2/3 went down to Wellington Wharf. Obviously, when you look at things like that, when you're thinking of establishing a forestry, you want to look at the logging costs, and they're very cheap here. We've compared it with logging some of the hill sites, and the logging costs go up considerably. But the other big factor is how far you are for local New Zealand transport. When we took wood to Levin, it cost us $7 a tonne. Going to Wellington, it was $22 a tonne, and that makes quite a difference to your end profit. But when we go back to right to the beginning, we never really thought of doing it for money. It was an interesting thing to do, and we joined the Farm Forestry Association right at the beginning. I went to a farm forestry course at Flock House, and I've never learnt so much in a week in my whole life.
Or eaten.
And yeah, we had good food there. And then we started after that, and over the years the members of the farm forestry, we had field days here and we've been to meetings, and the people you meet are just such fascinating people from all walks of life, who are only there because they're interested in trees.
We did think of it as an income in our retirement, but did realise too that it was a little bit of a gamble, because markets do fluctuate up and down. As a family thing, I think we did think of the the girls and having something for them later on.
They have been involved.
Yeah, they've been involved from the beginning as much as they moaned and groaned about having to do a lot of the work. They say now they did enjoy it, and they're still interested now as to what's happening, and some of their children are. So from that point of view, it's been very good.
They intend to carry on. We're going to replant in the next year or so, and it's hard to see. This is a mess at the moment, but the trees will grow again. I think the important thing if you're starting off is, as 30 years ago there was an enormous forestry hype and everybody was going to make a fortune, and a lot of people did get caught. So just do it. If you're interested in trees, get out there and plant them. If you've got a farm, small areas of trees, there's obviously always somewhere on your farm which would be an appropriate place to have trees.
And they bring the birds, and it's a lovely place to wander, especially in the evenings.
There's no doubt if you've got a paddock just with a small patch of trees on a hot day, the stock will be fighting to get under the shade. The things you want to do are make sure you plant the trees that are right for your area. You can look at trees in one place and you think, gosh, they look good. And native trees, we have great trouble here growing native trees. Some people, some of the local bureaucrats have decided that this area should be replanted in native trees. That's just not practical. They won't grow here. It's better you've got to put the right trees for the right area and get advice. And that's what the farm forestry is so good at. There's always somebody who's done what you're trying to do and can give you advice on it.
And they've made mistakes too, which they openly admit. So it's been a great experience, and I would never say not do it. It's hard work if you're doing it on your own, but you get lots of rewards as well.